2024 was actually incredible for music. I don't know if music actually got better or I just became less cynical or maybe a mix of both, but it's to the point where I actually feel like making a year-end list for the first time since 2021. Between Brat Summer giving us the ratchet party girl anthems we needed and Kendrick Lamar ripping off all of Drake's fingernails one by one, I dare say this is the best year we've had since 2016. Plenty of great releases from artists both old and new, and even some acts I didn't care for too much previously really impressed me this year. As such, I got a few honorable mentions before we get to the top 10. The Cure came back with their first album since 2008, and it's actually shocking how Robert Smith's voice has not aged at all in the 40 plus years he's been doing it. And that really goes for the entire sound of the album. It's not very hooky, but the atmosphere captured on every song is genuinely on par with a lot of their golden age stuff. So if you paint your nails black or own a Smith shirt, then you can't miss out on this one. Alligator Bites Never Heal by Doechii. I was kind of sleeping on this one for a while. Actually, I didn't know who Doechii was until I heard her on that last Tyler the Creator album, which is very good, but also didn't make the list. This one, though, just has so much personality and range between the songs, and Denial is a River is easily one of my favorite tracks of last year. One of the most exciting artists to come from TDE in a while, and I look forward to hearing more from her. Keep It Going, Zave by Xavier So Based. I don't think I've heard any other tape that captures this feeling of being a kid who's excited about his music taking off better than this one, and it's truly inspirational. This Ain't the Way You Go Out by Lucy Rose. This artist suffered from osteoporosis shortly after giving birth to her first child, and a lot of the songs on here are about that experience. I love how the cover art looks like some old school Columbia Records vocal jazz type shit, and the sound of the album matches it very well. And the last honorable mention goes to another Lucy who had this album that's 100% produced by Ivy. That's literally the title. Cooper B. Handy basically makes Barney the Purple Dinosaur music for people in their 20s. He sings about making his bed and eating carrot cake and stuff like that. It's really fun, trust me. Without further ado, let's get to the list. Hakushi Hasegawa is an artist I've been listening to for a while. In fact, my second favorite project of 2018 is this EP they put out called Samoku Hodo. And this year they got signed to Flying Lotus's Brainfeeder label. Hell yes! Their music has always been pretty crazy, creating this breakcore-inspired brand of new jazz that's tied together by Hakushi's soothing tenor voice. But on this label debut, they completely went all out. It's hard to even follow along with how much is going on in a lot of these songs, and it makes me think of the parade from Paprika. It's a well-paced listen too, with prettier ballads like Forbidden Thing and Boy's Texture acting as a nice chaser from all of the... If you're a fan of electronic music and like to get a little freaky with it, then you should really check out this artist's entire catalog.
You got the swag of a nigga from Chatterbait. You wanna aggravate, stick talk, let the chopper elaborate.
Just a year after his fantastic collab project with Danny Brown, Peggy pulled through with his heaviest and murkiest sounding album to date. He's constantly finding new ways to fuck up samples into these mutant colossi that are so meticulously ugly that you can't look away from them. Some of my favorite songs he's ever made are on here, like the menacing fanfare of JPEG Ultra with Denzel Curry, the old school sample flip on Ex-Military being taken to these progressive new heights, and New Black History with Vince Staples having one of the weirdest grooves I've ever heard on a hip hop song, with this crazy breakdown at the end. My favorite on the whole album is Either On or Off the Drugs, which samples an AI 70s blues cover of a Future song, and is one of his most introspective tracks in a while. I caught him live earlier this year, and that was really great too. This is the breakout album from California songwriter, allegedly pronounced McGee. I haven't been this excited about a bedroom pop album in... But McGee's soulful and psychedelic approach to the genre is really refreshing. The cold, dark blue and gray color palette of the cover art perfectly matches the lost and disjointed feeling of the songs that are perfect for when that seasonal depression is hitting. It sounds like a collection of long-lost, artsy Justin Timberlake demos from an album that was too experimental to see the light of day. I constantly feel like I'm drowning, but am catching bubbles of air from time to time, with vocals that are often buried, yet still have a lot of swag. Hell, there's some songs on this album, like Riley and I and Break the Spell, that remind me of James Ferraro's alt R&B era. Easily one of my favorite new discoveries of the year.
When I was 10, I was sipping Shirley Temples. Present day, I'm still sipping Shirley Temples.
Another artist I was introduced to this year is Joey Valence and Bray, aka
JVB.
I'll admit when I first listened to this album, I wasn't super hype on it, but that's because I wasn't ready. These guys tap into a similar crossroad of hip-hop and punk that reminds me of acts like the Beastie Boys, Rage Against the Machine, and dare I even say Limp Bizkit. Hell, they actually opened for Limp Bizkit, so I don't even see that as an insult. Their 2023 album Punk Tactics was a lot more punk-oriented, real shocker there. But No Hands takes everything that worked about that album and goes even more outside the box with it. There's so many unpredictable moments, like the random rave breakdown on Like a Punk, the laid-back jazz beat on the title track, or the crunk ad-libs on The Baddest. Danny Brown also has a fantastic feature on this album, on the track Pack a Punch, which has a crazy-ass music video. In some ways, I'm kind of surprised a revival of this brand of rap rock with all these genre fusions didn't happen even sooner. Or maybe it did and it just wasn't as good as this. I don't know. Either way, No Hands is fun for the whole family. Buy it for your nephew, you'll be his favorite relative.
What they talking about? They ain't talking about none. What they talking about? They ain't talking about none. What they talking about? They ain't talking about none. What they talking about? They ain't talking about none.
Kendrick Lamar arguably had a better year than anyone else in music. The impact that all these diss tracks have had and will continue to have on hip-hop hasn't even been fully felt yet. And I have a feeling things are going to get even crazier moving forward. Before the year ended though, he dropped GNX, which is a stone-cold love letter to the West Coast and one of the most consistent rap projects I've heard all year. We got 2000s Bay Area hyphy bangers like Squabble Up and TV Off, alongside the soulful bliss of tracks like Luther and Heart Part 6. It pays homage to the greats like Tupac on Reincarnated and Nas on Man at the Garden, while introducing new faces from Kendrick's hometown to really put the West back on the map. His eccentric vocal performances and unique song concepts are here in full swing, with some of my favorites being the metaphor for his pen on Gloria, and of course Peekaboo. I'm really looking forward to the Kendrick Lamar concert in February featuring football. So right when I decided to stop making YouTube videos for a while, our demigod himself dropped arguably the best album in his entire catalog. This is a 30-track behemoth of a record that takes rage rap in this cloudy and abstract direction, perfectly soundtracking a drug-induced panic attack. The usual suspects like White Armor, Young Sherman, and Wosum are on here, and while their presence is certainly felt, their production takes a back seat to Filthy from Working on Dying, who is all over the track list here. There's even a couple credits to Skrillex and James Ferraro. Oh my god! This is like the ultimate culmination of chronically online stoner rap over the last few years. With 30 songs and a little over an hour in length, there's obviously a lot of short tracks that feel more like interludes on their own, but I promise you every song here contributes something to the track list. It all flows perfectly without getting repetitive or boring, and the album's high points are very high. Young Sherman has one of the hardest hooks I've ever heard on a Rage song, Enter the Road Boys is irresistibly bouncy while being cold-blooded, and Don't Do Drugs has maybe my favorite lyrics of any Blade song ever, where he faces his issues in a very head-on way while still coming out on top.
Don't be addicted to the pain, there is a way that you can take, but it's a way you have to pay.
There's a lot more on this album to talk about, but I'll probably save it for another day.
I've been up too late with Guitar Hero playing Bark at the Moon.
Manning Fireworks gets this year's award for Best Country Album for people who don't like country music. Every year has one. This one in particular nearly made me tear up at multiple points. The sarcastic lyrics, hardly post-pubescent vocals, and slackery guitars make it feel like a Pavement album with a little bit of country twang to it. My buddy Soda Visions on RYM described it as a time capsule of what small-town America looks and feels like in a post-COVID world, and that's something I've thought about every time I go back to this album. The lyrics are hilarious and abstract, painting a picture of a coward trying to break free from his own mental state, with a scooter DUI from drinking Kahlua and having a houseboat docked at the Himbo Dome. The most popular song on the album, She's Leaving You, quickly became one of my favorite breakup songs of all time. Like, I'm not even going through a breakup or anything right now, but god damn! If I were to just drive away and start a new life without telling anyone, then this would be the song I'd do it to. Life doesn't stop just because you get thrown a curveball and have to adapt. We all have responsibilities and work to do, which is a sentiment I don't hear in a lot of breakup songs. The album ends with Bark at the Moon, which is similarly about going on a bender after a breakup, concluding with an extended drone that feels like falling asleep on your couch at the end of a long day. I can't get enough of this thing, it's incredible. Okay, genuinely, if you didn't have a brat summer, I feel bad for you. You don't know how to have fun. Charlie came through with one of the most consistent and flawless pop albums I've heard in a long time, being as glamorous as it is personally revealing. One minute I feel like a ratchet party girl getting absolutely railed, the next I'm reminded of the late great Sophie and the joys of motherhood. In just 41 minutes, Charlie is able to cram in 15 killer tracks that beautifully take you through the highs and lows of what it means to be brat. I bought a vinyl copy of it myself, and she's such a brat that she's not even green. You've heard it, you love it, what else is there to say? On April 8th, 2024, there was a total solar eclipse that, without completely doxing myself, was very visible from where I was, and seeing it was quite a moving experience. Later that day, my friends and I took and listened to the new Vampire Weekend album, and it was a life-changing experience. Before this year, I wasn't really a Vampire Weekend fan. In fact, you could have called me a hater. Some of the genre fusions on the self-titled come off as really corny for me, and while I think Modern Vampires is okay, there's not really that much that stands out about it for me. Only God Was Above Us, though, is absolutely incredible, and it also happens to be the first time the name of the band isn't plastered on the cover. The lyrical themes are so vast, with classical sounding like it's written from the perspective of God watching civilizations collapse over time, and Capricorn serving as a reminder of how short our lives are. The upright bass, grand piano, and distorted guitars make the album feel like a noise rock symphony, occasionally balanced out by calmer tracks like Prep School Gangsters and the trip-hop inspired Mary Boone. It's honestly kind of tied for the #1 spot at the moment, but there was one other album that came at a perfect time for me. I had never listened to Porter Robinson prior to checking this thing out, but this was exactly what I needed to hear this year. An EDM producer going full 2000s indie-tronica while writing songs about moving on with his life is extremely meta, while also being very impactful. I did an entire video on this album, so I won't go too in-depth here, but as someone who just moved to a new town and is changing a lot, it was a really comforting listen. Perfect album aesthetics, great production, immaculate songwriting, absolutely no complaints. Thank you, Porter Robinson, for creating this masterpiece, and I look forward to hearing more from you. And that's pretty much it. If you're mad at me because I didn't include this album or that album or any of these, then take it up in the comments. Let me know what some of your favorites are and which ones you're looking forward to hearing in 2025. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, you know the drill.